Welcome to the Addiction Solution Podcast. I'm Michelle Dunbar. Enjoy listening and watching as addiction experts Mark Sheeran and I cover controversial as well as helpful topics on addiction, how to move past it, and other related subjects. As two of the co-founders of the Freedom Model, Mark and I will give you a completely new perspective on the topics that matter to you. We will take to task the Recovery Society's lies and misinformation and replace them with facts, research, and the methods to move on from addiction struggles without 12-step meetings, rehabs, and the shackles of endless recovery. Let's escape the treatment and recovery trap together and learn to be free. Welcome to the truth. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Addiction Solution Podcast. I'm Michelle Dunbar.
And I'm Mark Sheeran, and we are the co-authors of The Freedom Model for Addictions, Escape the Treatment and Recovery Trap with our colleague, Stephen Slate.
We want to tell you quick about our solution to addiction coaching packages. They've become very popular. We've had really great success with them. They include the solution to addiction workshops. And we have one for substance use specifically, and then we have one for behavioral issues, specifically PMO and sex addiction. And they also include 3 90-minute coaching sessions with either Mark or myself, and 3 months of the online program, and all of our books. The Solution to PMO and Sex Addiction book is now available with our Solution to PMO and Sex Addiction workshop only. And look at the coaching package is a tremendous value. And if you want to learn more about it, you can go to thefreedommodel.org. And at the top of the page, you can choose whichever one you're looking for.
That's right. It's the most effective solution to any addiction in the world.
It is. I was thinking, I did an email earlier this week about, we're in September. We're coming towards the last quarter of the year, which starts October 1st.
Yep.
And how many years have you said in January, I'm going to do these things this year?
Yeah.
I want to accomplish these things. I mean, I think most people, when January comes around, start thinking, oh, I'd really like to accomplish these certain things.
Right. A time of renewal.
Right.
You're talking about. Yeah.
And so research shows people are gung-ho usually for about the first 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then things kind of falter off. Now, some people are gung-ho longer and really make a go of it. But but then what happens? Like, if you're on a diet, like holidays happen, birthdays come up, different events come up where you're like, I'm just not going to worry about that today. I'm not going to worry about it. And sometimes it's like a snowball rolling down the hill. And so people with an all or nothing attitude, which I've said this before, if you have an all or nothing attitude, it can really like hamper your progress in these kinds of behavioral changes. Because if you think, I had a couple of days that were bad, I might as well just throw it all out the window.
Well, that's the sort of AA way that they talk about, where if you have one drink, it throws away. It's a false dichotomy. It's a false argument. It's a construct. It's an idea that somebody made up. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily have any real world validity except in the cult of Alcoholics Anonymous. For example, you're sober for 5 years and you're doing it the AA way, right? You're counting days and all that miserable one day at a time horseshit.
And you're doing great though. Your life, you're getting the promises.
Yeah. 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 So your life's improving. I'm sorry if I laugh.
I know. But you're attributing all the great things in your life to AA.
Right. And then you go out and you have a cocktail. And the whole AA world just goes batshit crazy on you. And that's one of those false things that I'm sober and then now I'm not. And And so you're in this weird construct idea that all has been wiped away that was good with a drink, which is really weird.
It is weird.
It's completely strange, but it's not weird if you believe that there's some latent disease that you've now kicked in, right? All the mythology starts piling in. But if we get it out of the realm of AA, when you have these kinds of things with health food crazes, with weight loss, with with all kinds of things. I
Yep.
mean, it can be any habit.
Physical fitness. Yeah, it's smoking.
So if you create a way, I guess the topic really is if you're creating sort of this false world where one habit broken equals disaster.
Yeah.
You're in for a tough life, man, because the world is gray. If you have a drink at your daughter's wedding, it's a wonderful thing.
It's not the end of the world.
It's not.
So, I mean, I thought about this because as we get towards the end of the year, first of all, people organically change. Their organic change is like this, which Mark has said before. It's a wave.
It's a waveform.
And that is how people change. People don't typically go right and then they have their new life. That is not the way that typically works.
That's right.
It honestly did for me with drinking, with heavy drinking, and it did for you with heavy drinking. But with a lot of other areas in my life, it didn't.
Well, I would say, though, there was a period, if we really were truthful about it, there was a period before we quit that we did the hard deliberating, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, with the exception of massive epiphanies where people's minds open up to a completely different reality, which is what I think everybody wants to have happen because it seemingly makes things easier. And I think that when people have these massive epiphanies where one day they're this way and the next day they're another way, it's so rare because what it demands, what a change like this quantum change requires is a complete questioning of every single thing you're doing and acceptance of letting it go. And I don't know many people, me included, that are willing to have a wholesale sort of quantum change in my beliefs.
Right.
Now there are things in the world that create these quantum changes. One of them is war. When you see people, I had a friend of mine, I talked about this in an early podcast. His name was Billy. He went to Vietnam and he was sitting on a set of bleachers at the Air Force Base going over to Vietnam at 18 years old. And he was watching the other soldiers coming back in the caskets, actually coming off the plane. And he goes, even though some of these guys were only a year or two older than me, I looked in the bleachers and I saw a bunch of children on the bleachers. And what I was seeing coming off the plane were men. And one of the guys came up, stood in front of us and said, "You'll be sorry," and walked past. And he goes, I suddenly realized that I was going to be a changed person. And it ended up being true because that was a quantum shift. What he was describing when he was the guy coming off the plane was he had a completely different view of humanity and what he had endured. And he wasn't negative about it. He just said it changed him. Obviously, so if you have circumstances like that can be traumatic or wonderful too, like the birth of a child can be a quantum shift where your whole career choice, the way you look at your business, the way you look at your wife, or husband, the way you look at things changes dramatically. Now, but even then, parenthood sometimes is a process of change. It's not the sort of quantum massive thing, so, but if you're looking at the world in black and whites and you want change to be instantaneous, well, my friend, you're going to have to challenge everything you think. And I just don't think that happens organically very often.
Well, you make a great point because that's where I was going with this is you get into towards the end of the year and I think, and I know I've done this, a lot of people with the all or nothing attitude throw in the towel. Well, this year is shot, right?
Fuck it.
Fuck this year, right? I didn't do what I wanted to do. And now, mind you, we have 3.5 months left in the year, which is a relatively long period of time. Now, I'm in my late 50s, so time goes by very, very fast. And yes, we will be in 2025 before we know it, but it's still 3.5 months. Okay. And you can change a whole lot about your life in 3.5 months. And so I think people with the all or nothing tend to be the ones that say, I'm going to start on January 1st. I'm going to like throw this year away, to live my life, like not worry about things, go do what I want to do, which a lot of times, if you've been trying and you're mindful for a period of time, then you kind of when you throw it all away, sometimes your behaviors get worse because of the all or nothing.
Yeah. So now I'm going to back this up a bit. And let's say that we take this whole argument about how we change out of a time signature. We've let go of the time signature completely.
Right.
Why?
So that's a good point too.
So time is a continuum, right? It just goes. There's nothing
you can do about it.
So why would you say January 1st, 3 or 4 months down the line, is any different than today? It's not. It's whatever you decide it to be. So what if, and this is maybe a challenge to our audience, what if you said, I don't, and this goes back to the one day at a time thing that we have to be careful about, but and I'll address that next. What if you just said, right now, I'd like to make some decisions about my life, and how do I feel about that? So when I'm coaching somebody, and what I want to be clear about this, I'm not talking about doing it one day at a time in some sort of counting the days struggle. What the one day at a time originally came from, that AA bastardized, so I want to be clear about this, is the Buddhist idea of living in the moment.
Yes. And the Stoics talk about that as well.
That's right. Not in any fear-based angle, because AA co-opted it as alcohol is powerful and drugs are powerful, and therefore you have to just cocoon into one day and hope for the best. That's bullshit. Okay. That's just bullshit. Get rid of all the mystique about drugs and alcohol first, and you'll realize how nonsensical that is. What I'm talking about is just saying, what do I want for myself right now and the future? What the hell do I want for myself? So let's say I know that when my daughter was born, I already had one son, Austin, and when Gabrielle was born, I now had 2 children. I had to make some changes, because once you have a couple of kids, it gets expensive and life gets busy. And I changed a lot about myself.
Yeah, you did.
Like I quit boxing. I focused on my job. I really changed a lot of my life in a really wonderful, beautiful way. So it wasn't a time-centered thing. So let's remove the time signature completely from this process and say, forget about January. Forget about start overs. What would make you happy
today?
And that's what I do with coaching.
Yes.
That's exactly what I ratchet things back, all the fear and anxiety about all this shit. And I go, whoa. What do you want? And they say, I don't know. Usually.
Yeah.
They don't know. And then we have to dig in and figure out, what do you actually want for your life?
Yeah. I mean, that's the key. The key is, if you decide I'm going to throw things all away, because, and a lot of times I think that the mentality behind that is, changing is so hard, and the benefits are way out in the future. Well, the key to changing is realizing the benefits that happen now, today. Like, are you going to be happier just throwing caution to the wind and going back to drinking your 2 bottles of wine every night? Are you really going to be happier that way? And waiting until January to start over again? Or are you happier? Like, if you've, and I've worked with a lot of people that do this, they reduce it, right, to, okay, I'm only drinking my 2 bottles of wine 3 nights a week now. And the other nights I'm not drinking at all. And I really do love those nights that I don't drink, but I still have these 3 nights that I'm drinking. Right. And so they're so focused on being failures because of the 3 nights they're drinking, that it feels as if, I might as well just give up. Well, no, if you're drinking 3 nights, that means there's 4 nights that you're not. And that's progress. That's progress. And those 4 days, you're happy you're not doing it. Now, the question is, do you know you're happy you're not doing it? Or are you pining away for it?
Yeah. Are you punishing your way to change?
Yeah.
Are you forcing yourself into something that's really tough and guilt laden and your consequence oriented solution, that's fraught with all kinds of failure in the future. You're just not going to keep punishing yourself as a means of motivation.
But we're not saying, even if you are someone who you are in the process. And so I'm going to talk about this as in a process of change. And so you have some days when you're not doing the behavior. And then you have days that you're doing the behavior and you're doing it more than you want. And it feels out of your control. And you're telling yourself, I don't really want to do this. Okay. If you're doing that, we're not saying throw caution to the wind and do it every night again and give up. No, we're not saying that. Right. Even if you're feeling deprived on those days, the key is to still continue to challenge those benefits. So the days that you engage in your behavior, own it. I really do want to do this on these days.
That's so important. So one of the beautiful things about when we coach somebody is, and I just did a video on this not that long ago, is when you're a non-judgmental person. So there's two types of judgment. There's judgment to control people and manipulate people and have strategy. And then there's judgment of, as a coach, I judge you to this degree. You tell me something, and then I can react based on what you tell me. And I assume it's the truth. So do I judge what you say? Yeah, in the view of helping you. But I don't sit and say what you're doing is wrong.
No.
So once you realize that as your coach, I'm not trying to tell you you're wrong or bad, then suddenly people go, oh, yeah, but I boot heroin every day. Okay. I assume that you know that you're doing that because you see value in it, because you wouldn't do it if you didn't see value in it. Then the question is, as a coach, well, hey, is it possible that maybe you have a overblown view of the drug and its effects? Is that a possibility? And if I ask that question, the answer, I don't know if it is. You need to answer that. And then you start to figure out these things and you're able to analyze them. But what Michelle said is crucial, and that's own the fact that you like it.
Yeah.
Your behaviors, your physical manifestations belie exactly what you actually like in life. So if you're somebody that does boot heroin every day, guess what? We know that you like that experience. It's not up for debate. It's just reality, because you're not going to do something that you don't want to do at some level. So that has to be your beginning point. And challenging that, which we talk endlessly about, because it's sort of
the key.
Yeah, it's the linchpin to change. But it all comes back to what do I really want for myself and where am I headed? But once we build up all these artificial parameters, whether it's guilt, whether it's time, whether it's all this stuff, punishing ourselves into change, all of that stuff tends to fail. And statistically, it's proven to fail.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're waiting for a time that I won't be as stressed to quit smoking,
good luck on that.
Yeah. I mean, if you're waiting for a Monday to start over, I understand that. I do understand that, because the weekends are party time. Typically when you kick that can down the road, you're going to keep kicking it. It's only when you begin to really look at the benefits of change right now, see the value in not doing the behavior. What is the value in not doing the behavior? Is there value in not doing it? And if I don't see value in not doing it, then why am I trying to stop?
Right. And sometimes you're just confused about that value.
Yeah.
And this goes right back to, we have all this material out there, the free material with the podcasts and all this stuff. But the workshop is really geared towards figuring out the value of alcohol, drugs, PMO, gambling, whatever it is that you're struggling with. Once you figure out the true objective value of that experience, what does the drug actually do to you? What does the drink actually do to you? What does the pixels on the screen for pornography actually do for you? Once you pare it down and you start to figure out what these fetish objects are and these habits that you have, what they actually produce, you will suddenly realize that is very small compared to how you've built it up. Now, when you realize this is a quantum change, all of a sudden people will go, holy shit, I've been living a fantasy and I have this romanticized view that I have created. And I don't think I need that anymore. Then you don't have to count days. You don't have to set up arbitrary dates of change. You don't have to have all these artificial meetings. You don't have to have rehab protocols. You don't have to be on Suboxone. You don't have to be on, and anything. Yeah, you can just change. You can just say, wow, that really doesn't serve me.
I want to use an analogy that just popped into my head. So when I was born, that was a long time ago, more than 55 years ago. When I was born, my aunt gave me a teddy bear. And like the day I was born, I got this gunned teddy bear. And it's the best. I still have it. With everything worn off. Well, that teddy bear had to go with me everywhere. I mean, I was that kid where my mother would go searching if I left it in a grocery store, because I had that teddy bear. The teddy bear ended up going to college with me, but it's not like I carried it everywhere once I got to a certain age. So this is no different. I got to a certain age with that teddy bear, probably kindergarten, and I wasn't allowed to bring it to kindergarten, so I didn't. And it stayed on my bed and it stayed in my room. But up until kindergarten, that teddy bear, I had to have it on me. And when you have these fetish objects, that's what that is. Okay. But I naturally matured out of it.
Yep.
I naturally realized that I could function in life happily without having Teddy have to go everywhere with me. And so when you're thinking of these fetish objects, I didn't wait until January 1st. There was no arbitrary day that I put Teddy down and was like, I didn't go through teddy bear withdrawal. I didn't do any of those things. I naturally moved away.
So let me talk about naturally moving away. So people say, is change a process? Well, it can be. But if there is a process, it isn't steps.
No.
It isn't something that is sterile, and it isn't a date. It isn't doing it one day at a time. It isn't these sort of what I call recovery protocols, okay? It's not like baking a cake like we talk about in the book. It's what it is the realization over time, and it can be a moment all the way to a lifetime and everything in between, that the fetish object is not providing what you think it's providing.
That's right.
So at its simplest form, change happens in a reinterpretation of the object, whether it's alcohol, drugs, porn, whatever it might be. So in that reinterpretation, that requires knowledge. Then based on knowledge and belief about that knowledge, you'll couple those two things together, and then you'll come to new conclusions. When you come to a new conclusion, you have changed.
Yeah.
Because if the conclusion is that this thing really isn't all it's cracked up to be, well, then you're going to want it less. And that's just the way it works. There is nothing. There is no, by the way, there's no biochemical thing happening compelling your use. Right? We have to say that in every single podcast.
We sure do.
Because that's total bullshit. You are not run by your biochemistry, your biology. You are not. What you are run by is your beliefs.
Yep.
Your beliefs and the meaning and value in which you place on things and relationships. And when you reinterpret the relationship between this cup of coffee or the bottle of whiskey, whatever it might be, when you reinterpret that, the meaning of it in your life becomes different through reinterpreting it. There is no other way to change. There is no other way to change. I want to be really clear about that. There is no sterile protocol. There's no date that is special on January 1st, except unless you make it special.
Right.
But the other thing is, why don't you accept the fact that most change requires chipping away at your belief system? Because emotionally, when you really believe in something, it's like a bad marriage. Watch somebody who is a beaten wife or husband, right? And how much belief is centered on, but I still love him or her.
Right.
Right. And that belief is so ironclad that they're willing to take beatings to get a scrap of love. Now, to chip away at that sometimes takes time, that belief system that they are worth more than a scrap of love, and that they don't have to pay a painful price to receive love. That construct, that's like a binge construct, right? That's a construct of love that is skewed based on that person's experiences. So the only thing that can fix that or change it to a better situation is their belief that they can be loved with less of a cost. If they don't believe that, they'll actually go find someone who beats them.
Yeah. Well,
And then
that's why people go from
that's
one bad relationship to another, because they equate these things, right? They equate love with some sort of abuse.
That's right. It's a learned connection. Read the chapter on learned connections. So the relationship with a drug or pornography or anything else is no different. It's whatever you believe that relationship gains you. Now, in all of these situations, they have some sort of active placebo or placebo effect, something that you believe that you have overblown.
Yep.
And then that becomes, and what is the scrap of love in that scenario? It would be the buzz.
Yeah.
Or the orgasm. Or the rush of winning at gambling, even though you just lost your shirt. Right. So beliefs are powerful things, you guys. So it takes some time. If there is a process, it's a process of looking at beliefs with a critical eye, with the freedom model. And maybe you need some coaching to see it, where I can ask the very specific pointed questions that will get to a new conclusion. I only ask questions. I might make some suggestions, but I'll tell you, listen, this is my opinion, and Michelle does the same thing.
Yep.
And we go through, and you will self-analyze these situations. And
yeah, and that's important, because if you don't come to the conclusion yourself, you're not going to change.
That's right.
Okay. This is an internal change of mind that must happen for you to act and behave differently. Beliefs in our own minds are very powerful things. And you are going to act according to what you believe, regardless of what I tell you or what he tells you.
Right.
Or
the person in the meeting or your therapist or whatever.
Exactly. Which is why a good therapist will actually ask you questions and learn what your beliefs are, then challenge them. That's the only real way to help somebody to change.
Yeah, you have to ask the right questions, and the right questions can only happen when you're face to face, one-on-one, nobody else is around. You can't, couples therapy fails so miserably many times because somebody's always getting triangled upon.
Yes.
And somebody's the loser and somebody's the winner. And usually the ultimate winner is the therapist as they walk away with your money. So, I mean, it's one of the, and I'm not down on therapy. What I am down on is therapy that's manipulative and full of shit.
Yeah.
When you have cognitive behavioral therapy that exists in the rare person that knows of your autonomy, the rare therapist, it can be really productive.
For sure.
But they better be super knowledgeable. And if they're dealing with quote unquote addictions, frankly, most of the time you can forget it, because they're going to be infected with all kinds of AA bullshit.
Exactly. And they'll say, hey, then now go to your meeting.
Yeah, shoot me.
So I'm going to take it right back around, because we're coming up on a half an hour. And if you said at some point this year, I'm going to make these changes, I'm going to do these things differently, and now we're into September and you're starting to think, fuck it, the year's almost over, it's too late for me to make any changes. It is not.
Right.
It is not. Today's as good a day as any. If you've read our books, tried to read our books, maybe you've done the workshop, maybe you've made some progress. I mean, we just had somebody come to our
2-day
in-house workshop. It was a tremendous 2 days with her. And she is somebody that had done some coaching with me. She'd done our workshop, and she just needed those 2 days with us to really, really figure things out. Now, she'd made progress all year. And progress is great. But if you're ready to like really make that change, coaching may be the way to do it. Our coaching packages are absolutely affordable. They're a great value, and you'll get it done in 3 weeks. Okay. I'm talking about 3 weeks to change. So it's only September. You could have it done before
Yeah.
Halloween.
Yeah.
And you can go into the holidays feeling totally confident that you're not going to wreck Thanksgiving, getting loaded, that you're basically that you're ready to rock and roll. So when come January, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah. So what we're going to celebrate through coaching, the workshop, whatever, is small changes to large changes. We celebrate change.
Absolutely.
So now if you told me I'm going to do coaching and I don't want to change, we would have silent sessions. I would just say
there'd be no reason to do coaching.
Right. So I assume that if you sign up for any of our products or services, that you're looking for a change. And what I'm going to look for is celebrating an open mind.
Yeah.
Because an open mind has the capacity to look at things from a different perspective and to challenge things and to question things and to come to new conclusions. If you're not willing to do that, nothing can change.
No.
And there's no amount of coaching, money spent. I see people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on rehabs, wishing that they would be changed.
Oh, for sure.
What a horrendous waste of time. But when people usually find, our books, our whole system of services, they're ready for a change. So we'll celebrate the small changes, and then they'll pile up and pile up. And there comes a point where whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish hits critical mass and becomes easy.
Yes.
It becomes easy because there's enough truth laid out about yourself and your relationship to the fetish object that you're able to really see it like shockingly different.
Yeah.
And it becomes a really empowering moment. So let's help you get there. Let us help you get there. And read the book, read it, study it, go through it. The information is there. And if you still are struggling, I would love to have a conversation with you. I know Michelle would as well. If you want to short circuit the whole process and really, 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 and you're sort of that studious person who's not afraid to get on a plane or drive out here, come and see us.
Yeah, make that investment in yourself and just get it done. And be kind to yourself through the whole process. I say this every single podcast episode because I still get calls from people saying, "Oh, I don't know why I like this. I'm just such a terrible person." You're not.
Right.
It is normal to want to escape once in a while. I know I do. He just came back from vacation. That was a great escape, right? And I'm going on vacation next month, so I'm very excited. Everybody wants to escape life once in a while. Everybody wants to change their psyche, to change the way they feel. I know people keep asking us, and I'm just going to throw this out there. And it's not that we're avoiding this topic. But people keep asking us to do a podcast episode on psychedelics.
Oh, on psychedelics?
On psychedelics, because they're so that look at I don't think we need a whole podcast episode to do that. So I can say very quickly that it's no different than any other drug. Okay. The drug acts on the brain and the body in certain predictable ways. Your mind interprets that reaction in any way you think, because very quickly, I can tell you right now that I did my share of psychedelics back in the day.
Me too.
It did not cure my addictions. I was a heavy active substance user.
Well, here's the deal. Here's the deal with psychedelics. If it didn't cure your appetite for drugs when you were partying and doing them, all of a sudden people think that in microdosing,
it's therapeutic now.
Yeah, it's therapeutic now. What has changed? your image of it.
Yes,
Your idea behind it.
Drug set and setting.
Yeah.
Okay. Chapter 17 explains that.
And we're not denying the fact that psychedelics don't massively affect your
brain.
your brain, your processor. It does. I mean, if you've done them, you know that.
Heck yeah.
But the only difference between partying and going on an acid trip and then doing it in some clinic is what your expectancy is.
Yeah.
And what you're driving at.
Yeah.
So just know that. And I don't care if that's the method you're going to use. Wonderful. I don't think the drugs are the answer. I think that the answer has always been you, always will be you, and that's your mind and your thoughts.
2 words. We can sum up psychedelics in 2 words. Active placebo.
Yeah.
Okay? It affects your brain in certain ways. You interpret it. If you interpret it as helping you in some way, great.
It may
be helping you, right?
Right.
Because you're interpreting. I'm a huge fan of active placebo. Huge fan. If you really believe that that's changing. Do I think people need that to change? No, I don't.
Right. There's no fix for changing. Now, if microdosing, for example, and you go into it with the expectancy of really trying to discover yourself, you will discover something.
Yeah.
You will, because that's your intention.
Exactly.
And it definitely affects your brain, your processing in a pretty dramatic way. But the point is it the drug doesn't know you. So can it be a tool? Like anything can be a tool. Crashing a car was a tool for me to reinterpret my world. To the same degree, so was my daughter being born.
Yes.
It was a tool. I did a tremendous amount of mushrooms throughout the last 2 years of me drinking and drugging.
Yep.
Because I didn't frame it as a solution. It wasn't one. I suppose if somebody had come along and said, let's go, out in the woods and let's do this in this environment and you're going to discover yourself, I'm sure I would have discovered something.
Yeah.
But would I discover myself and how to change? Does the drug know that? No. It was, so I think it's really a case of interpreting drug experience.
That's it. Okay, everyone. I think we've covered this. So in closing, if you want to change, if you really want to change, it's not too late in 2024 to change now. And analyze the benefits of making a change, the benefits you see in making a change, not down the road, but right now, in today. Because why would I want to waste 3.5 months being unhappy and waiting to change? That makes no sense.
Right.
That makes no sense, right? So if you're interested in our coaching packages, go to thefreedommodel.org and you can go right to the coaching page. It'll talk all about the coaching packages. If you're interested in the workshops, you go to those pages, the solution to addiction or the solution to PMO and sex addiction. Or you can always call us. If you're watching, our number's at the top left corner of the screen. It's 1-888-424-2626 for those that are listening. And we love to hear from you. We love to hear from our fans always. And make sure you give us 5-star rating wherever you listen.
That's right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.